This is our humble abode. Typical explosion. You got that? Campground.
Oh, that's Cullen over there. Cullen's campsite.
Right there?
Yeah.
The guy that was over here drinking with us last time?
Late last night.
And Steve and Brad, right?
Steve and Brad.
They came together?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I'll pull my bike up here too in a bit, so can you leave that out, Bob? With the air pressure? I will.
As you can see, it's already been raining, so it's already going to be a muddy start to the day. You can see a few drops of rain on my lens already. So this was the riders meeting on day one, and our crew that was all standing there intently listening to what they had to say. And then we broke it down and got on the bikes and headed out.
8.3. 8.3. Go ahead, I'll follow you. on this thing at the worst possible place. A little slippery there. These tires have got way too much air in them. They need to be dropped down to about 15.
So you can see we're slipping around a bit. We're in a muddier section here. Bob had put about 20 pounds of air in the tires before we started, thinking we were going to do more highway. Well, once we got into this stuff, we realized we needed to lower the air down. We did, and things got a lot better.
Let a little bit of air out of the tires. I can already feel a bit more traction, especially on front. Doesn't feel like a rock. Typical Tennessee stuff, this giant mud holes. Try to ride out of Bob's roost. That thing throws roost 10 yards behind it.
So this is a little bit tighter single track, and I'm now following Brad on his KTM, and I think Steve's in front of him. So a little bit different perspective, different rider, instead of Bob being in front of me, and we're having some fun through here. Actually, I think that's Cullen in front of Brad, and Steve's in front of Cullen. So here was our gas stop before lunch, and Bob pointing out how much mud he'd thrown all over my bike. And there's the man, Bob himself. So the ride had a good mix of different kinds of roads. You saw we just came off the pavement. Now we're on a gravel road. And again, it was raining, so it made each of the sections a little bit treacherous because you had to watch out for how slick it was going to be until you figured out if you had good traction or not. So anyway, this is a section of gravel road, and I'm following a few of our guys. Up here and let us catch up, and then he takes off like a bat out of hell. He was having fun.
Whoa, shit. That was ugly.
So now we're on some single track again, and I'm following Steve this time. He's a pretty good rider. The terrain here gets really sloppy and really muddy.
Sloppy mud. Gonna get me. Gotta watch for them. Definitely not a trail you'd want to be on that KLR on. Roots. My glasses are fogging on me. Very slimy down in here.
started to catch some other riders up here, and I had turned the idle down on this bike, and now every time I go to slow down and hit the back brake, it die on me.
Fucking thing. God damn it! Jesus Christ!
Eventually I stopped and I turned the idle back up and just dealt with the fast idle the rest of the day, because it was less of a pain in the ass than the bike dying on me every time I tried to hit the back brake and stop. So
Man, that shit is slick. Back into some traction. Like riding on ice. Need help?
Get a hold of. You got a hold of me, so.
Ready?
Yep. Thank you.
There you go. Stuff's like grease. You got it?
Got it.
All right.
So I'm resetting my roll chart here. That was kind of helpful. It's the first time I ever used one. I never raced any enduros back when I was younger. The roll chart kind of tells you where you're at, what to expect, and you reset every once in a while with your odometer to make sure you're matching the roll chart. So this is our lunch stop for 300 plus. They had sandwiches, pasta, fruit, chips, stuff to drink. Just before I sat down to eat, standing in line to get my food, it was pouring rain on us, but it let up just before I sat down, which was pretty nice. There's my ride for the day, Bob's DRZ 400. Pretty sweet machine, other than the idle.
So it's after lunch, and Bob's bike, his KTM 500, broke. So he had to catch a ride back, and there was, I think, 8 of us guys. And the other guys, the other 6, they were done eating lunch long before I was. So I sent them on their way, and now I'm running the loop by myself, so I'm just kind of taking it easy, not doing anything stupid. Actually, I'm just kind of being a tourist and doing a little bit of sightseeing on the trails, and just kind of taking it easy. Last thing I need to do is go down and not be able to get up. So, just going to take a leisurely ride. I think there's like 40 or something miles going back this afternoon. It's about 1 o'clock, and no sense in pushing it. I'll just ride a nice leisurely pace, check out these Tennessee and Kentucky trails. But we've been on a lot of single track today. I'm surprised. They market this as some sort of an adventure ride, but for guys riding big adventure bikes, this stuff's a little bit more than I'd want to try to deal with on like a KTM 990. It's part of it's probably because it's rain and it's muddy, so all of this mud has made the trails really slick, and with the trails being slick like this, it makes them harder to negotiate. The dirt here turns to grease when it gets wet. Now the interesting thing is this section of trail that I'm on doesn't appear to be super wet, yet it rained like a mother back there where we were eating lunch. I think that might have been the guy I was talking to at lunchtime. He must be having some sort of problem because they whipped around me, and this trail ain't difficult enough to really cause them issues. So the other thing I'm kind of dealing with is this bike is kind of a pain because it doesn't want to carburate quite right. It's got plenty of power and torque and all that, but the issue is that it doesn't want to idle right, and sometimes if I turn the idle down, then when I hit the back brake, it dies. So I have to run with the idle turned up, and that kind of messes with me a bit because I don't get enough engine braking. I lost my glasses like a dumbass, so I'm riding without any glasses. That kind of bothers me as well. The idle stinks.
So you'll see that I finally decided to pick up the pace a little bit, and I pretty much ran at a pretty good clip the rest of the afternoon. The bike felt good, and I felt good. I was figuring out the mud, so I picked up the pace.
guys all right?
Yeah, I just wanted to give you time to stop.
Yeah, thank you. All right, thank you.
Yeah, well, no problem.
So I'm not really sure what was giving those guys so much trouble back there. I guess the roots or something caught that guy and threw him into the tree, and it took him a couple minutes just to pull him out. But
Thank you.
I just went right on through. I'm not real sure. I guess some of them are not too good at negotiating those routes. Anyway, picking up my speed again. See a bridge at the end of this. There were a lot of those on this trail, and those were slick as snot.
Grease. Pure grease. Well, my cam might be dying. So I'll get a couple more comments in here and we'll see what we got going. But yeah, I caught up with a couple of my guys. So I'll ride their pace a little bit. But these guys in front of me, they went past us, and they're not part of our group. And they're actually holding me up a little bit, but I'm not going to pass them. 2 beta guys are behind me. But I don't mind running this pace for a little bit. It slows me down a little. Here it's dry again. I'm back on pace. You just got to get into the rhythm that you feel comfortable with. And if you're riding with a group, sometimes that group can mess you up because they're riding at a much different pace than you. Maybe they're riding faster and you're trying to keep up. Maybe they're riding slower and you're trying to run your pace and you can't maintain it because they're going too slow. watch it is when we get into the grease. It's hard to manage the brakes on this thing, and with the engine running on, trying to keep the engine running at the same time. This bike has really decent power though. I mean, it stays, it comes on the throttle, really has nice power. Snappy power. And it's got a cushy seat. Whoa. Jumped that and almost jumped into a tree. More bridges. Thank you. Another bridge. Whoa.
What's the matter?
I don't know. Must be a hill or something. They're all having trouble getting up. You did pretty good on that old thing.
It's not bad, man.
Yeah.
It's new to me. I just got it this a few months ago. It's pretty cool though.
Yeah. I mean, for this kind of riding, it's probably about perfect.
Yeah.
You can touch the ground.
Yes. Yes, exactly right. It saved me a couple times.
Yeah.
Are you waiting in line or are you resting?
I guess I'll get in line.
Spot. You hit it to the outside, that's the only way anybody's getting over, getting up on the outside of it. It's nasty.
So here's my thoughts, those two little roots back there are giving you trouble, I don't recommend you come out to Colorado and try to ride the trails we ride here. Because if those are giving you trouble, you'll never make it out here. Pretty interesting deal back there. So I pretty much finished out today. You can see I'm back on some gravel type roads, muddy roads. A lot of water puddles, you had to watch for those. And you also had to be careful making sure that there wasn't somebody coming up from behind. You're going to see a guy on a husky passes me up here. He kind of caught me by surprise. I wasn't quite ready for him, but I moved out of his way so he could get by. You could go pretty fast on these stretches, but you had to be real careful because you can't easily stop. It's just slick as grease and pretty easy to do a high side if you were sliding and finally caught traction. So you got to be pretty careful. But, I ended up finishing up the day, 133 miles. I think it was 60 something after lunch, and I had a great time. So you can see my GPS after the ride, total miles, max speed. Bob cleaned up the bike after he got it back home, and there's Bob's bike cleaned up, ready to be tore apart to figure out what was broken in it. I think it may have had a bad rod bearing. I'm ready to do it again next year.